that I was actually looking for a particular book. I was like, ooh, I wanted to read The Nutcracker tonight. And I searched through all the books, and you can't really tell. You really have to kind of peek. It's a slightly see-through, but I couldn't find The Nutcracker. So whatever, we'll get it whenever it comes. So I just picked some other books since I couldn't find The Nutcracker. So let's see what we got tonight. This is another goodie. I love, 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 love this book. I like books that are based off of historical events. Not all of them are, but there might be a small handful. I know we've already read one, and here's another one. I don't know. I think there's at least one more, maybe 2 or 3 more. So I know I have at least 3 books, but it is The Carpenter's Gift. And this book is a Christmas tale about the Rockefeller Center tree. So it is historical, and here is the real Rockefeller tree in New York City, like Times Square, I think. So this is going to be a good one. Now, even though I have my reading buddy with me, I'm just going to let him, sit and listen. All right. The Carpenter's Gift by David Rubel, illustrated by Jim LaMarche. Look at the end papers, so gorgeous. I'm not sure how they painted this, or it might be, I'm not even going to guess. I'm going to look and see if it tells. You know how sometimes it tells how the artwork, what medium the artwork is in? I can't tell. I was going to say watercolor or colored pencil or something, but I don't know. It's gorgeous. So that's our title page, The Carpenter's Gift. Okay, let's see if I can squeeze in and make sure you guys can see good. There we go. Nearly a lifetime had passed, but Henry could still remember what it felt like to wake up in the old shack, especially during wintertime. In those days, the Great Depression gripped the country, and like many people, Henry's parents were out of work. They couldn't afford coal for the stove or warm blankets for the beds, so young Henry usually woke up with a shiver. But he didn't complain because it was nobody's fault. Instead, he visited warm places in his mind. One day in 1931, actually the day before Christmas, Henry was reading a book when he heard the loud toot-toot of a car horn. He opened the front door and saw his father behind the wheel of a borrowed truck. "Go for a ride, Sparky?" his father shouted over the rumbling engine. "You bet," Henry shouted back and raced inside to get his coat. Riding in any sort of a car was a special treat for Henry, not to be missed. Soon he was sitting beside his father, nose pressed to the window glass. Oh, wow. So your husband worked down there years ago. That's cool. They drove into a nearby grove of evergreens. Henry breathed in the strong, familiar smell. "Here's the plan," Henry's father said. "See those spruce trees, Sparky? We're going to cut them down and take them to the city." "Why?" Henry asked. "To sell them as Christmas trees," his father said. Even though New York City was just an hour's drive away, Henry had never been there before. He shivered with excitement at the thought of seeing all those tall buildings scraping the sky. When Henry and his father reached Midtown Manhattan, they began looking for a place to park and unload. Driving down Fifth Avenue, they found a good spot next to a construction site. "Mind if I set up here?" Henry's father asked a worker. The man looked them over. It didn't take him long to figure out that Henry's father was down on his luck. "No problem," the man said. "I'll give you a hand. My name's Frank." Then he turned around and called out, "Hey, Mikey, Polly, help me out here." For the rest of the afternoon, Henry and his father sold trees to passers-by. By the end of the day, they had earned enough money to make the trip a success. "We should be getting home now," Henry's father said as the sun set behind a tall building. "What about the rest of the trees?" Henry asked. "I thought we'd give them to Frank and the other fellows." Henry nodded in agreement. The best presents are the ones you don't expect, he thought. Because it was Christmas Eve, the workers were having a little party. Frank and the others took the tallest of the trees that Henry and his father had given them and decorated it with whatever they could cobble together. Paper garlands, cranberries threaded onto string, even a few shiny tin cans. Henry added an ornament of his own, made of newspaper that he folded into a star. In the background, he could hear his father talking with Frank about grown-up things, the hard times for Henry's family, the shack in which they lived. But Henry didn't want to think about those things. He just wanted to look at the most marvelous Christmas tree he had ever seen. Let's see. Letting the grand girl listen. She loves trees because Poppy was a tree man. Oh, yeah. It had been the best day that Henry could remember, and he didn't want it to end. He stood before the decorated tree, enchanted. The street lamps had just come on, and the tin cans glittered in their light. If ever there was a magic moment, Henry thought, this is it. He decided to make a special Christmas wish. He wished that one day his family would live in a nice, warm house. After making his wish, Henry opened his eyes. His gaze fell on a pine cone lying on the ground. He picked it up and was turning it over in his hands when he felt his father's grip on his shoulder. Time to go, Sparky, his father said. Henry stuffed the pine cone in his pocket, said good night to the workers, and walked with his father back to the truck. Yeah, popcorn and cranberries. You know, I haven't actually done that tradition, but we did, like, we went to a friend's house and we did popcorn there because she likes to have like a Christmas decorating party, and like we all just make homemade ornaments brand new, fresh every year at her house. So that's kind of fun. And we like to do the popcorn with her. By the time they arrived home, it was well past Henry's bedtime. You must be exhausted, his mother said, slipping off his boots. Straight to bed with you. Shrugging off his coat, Henry felt a bulge in his pocket. It was the pine cone. He took it out and looked at it, remembering the joys of the day and the magic of the tree. The next morning, Henry's parents let him sleep late. In fact, it was well past 8 when the toot-toot of several car horns woke him. Rushing to the window, he saw 3 trucks pulling up outside. All were loaded with lumber and other building supplies. At the wheel of the first truck was Frank, and behind him were other Rockefeller Center workers. What were they doing so far from the city on Christmas morning? Yeah, I think I'd be wondering the same thing. Bleached pine cones? I've never heard of that. Frank got out of the truck. After you left, we got to thinking, he said. There was all this extra wood lying around, and we had the day off, so we thought we'd drive up and see what we could do to help you with this house of yours. Frank looked the shack over, taking in its patched walls and ill-fitting windows. I think we'll have to make a fresh start, he said. Henry's father didn't have words for the way he felt, so he simply took Frank's hand and shook it. The sound of sawing and hammering traveled far enough that Christmas morning for Henry's neighbors to wonder what was going on. A few walked over, saw the new house going up, and spread the word. By mid-afternoon, a dozen more people were pitching in. That right there tells you of, like, community and people working together. Like, I think that's amazing. As the new house took shape, Frank called Henry over. See those boards? He said, pointing to a stack of cedar. We're going to use them to trim the windows, but they've got nails in them. I need you to pull the nails out. Henry moved to fetch the boards, but Frank called him back. Digging into his toolbox, he handed Henry an old claw hammer. You'll be needing this, Frank said. By nightfall, the frame of the new house was nearly done. By week's end, it had a roof. Soon enough, it was ready for Henry and his family to move in. In the spring, Henry's parents celebrated a potluck dinner. They invited everyone who had helped build the house. Henry was glad to see Frank again. He was ready to return the claw hammer, but Frank wouldn't take it. You keep it, son, he said. It may come in handy someday. After dinner, Henry sat happily in his very own room. He thought about his Christmas wish and couldn't believe it had actually come true. He knew he should do something special to express how thankful he was, and he thought long and hard about what that might be. Finally, he decided to plant the pine cone. Maybe he could be Jack from the Beanstalk story, and the pine cone could be his magic bean. planted the pine cone beside the new house. In time, a seedling emerged. Henry watered and weeded it. As time passed, both he and the tree grew tall and strong. Henry especially liked to hammer away in its shade, and he became quite a good carpenter, building many projects with his skilled hands. Wow, it's grown quite big. As Henry grew up, however, he became busy with other things. He got married, moved away, and had a family. Most summers, though, he returned to visit his parents. On lazy days, he sat beneath the tree with his son, teaching him how to build things with the old claw hammer. As he got even older, Henry sometimes wondered where the time went. One day, he was a young boy, waking up with a shiver. The next, he was an old man living alone. Not needing a big place anymore, he decided to move back into the house where he had grown up. Now, I don't know about you, but that looks like a pretty big place to me. To keep himself busy, Henry began working on the house, which was showing its age. He especially liked using the old claw hammer. Its polished handle, smooth and dark from wear, felt comfortable in his hand. One day, as Henry worked on the front porch, a man drove up to see him. The man told Henry that he worked for Rockefeller Center and that it was his job to pick out the new Christmas tree each year. Can you see where this is going now? Oh, I like reading the comments in between. Our neighbors do this when trees fall from hurricanes. Ooh, that's nice. Our neighbors all know each other. We know dogs, too. Your Annabelle's mom. You know, lovely community Henry lives in. Yeah, I'm glad. That's nice to hear that people still do that for each other these days. Okay, so I didn't finish this page. Okay. I just love your spruce, the man said. When I saw it from my helicopter yesterday, I knew that it had to be this year's tree. Henry wasn't sure what to do. He knew that being asked was an honor, but he and the tree had been together a long time, and he was reluctant to let it go. I know that I'm asking a lot, the man said, but if you agree, I can promise you that your tree will bring joy to millions of people. Henry thought some more. When the holiday season is over, the man continued, we mill the tree and use the lumber to help a family in need build a new home. And that, my friend, is where I get little cold chills. A family in need. Suddenly, Henry felt a shiver. What did I just say? And the calendar in his mind flipped back to 1931. Driving to New York City with his father, meeting Frank and the other workers, building the house, planting the tree, he knew what he had to do. I've been given so much, Henry said. I want to give something back. The tree's yours. Just before Thanksgiving, Henry received an invitation to the tree lighting. On a special day, a car picked him up and drove him all the way to Rockefeller Center, where he met the family whose new home would be built with the tree's lumber. They hugged him and thanked him many times for his generosity. Afterward, Henry stood off to the side and watched the family's young daughter. It's so beautiful, the girl said softly as she stared up at the enormous tree. Then something caught the child's eye. A pine cone had fallen to the ground. Picking it up, she turned it over and over in her hands before stuffing it into her pocket. If ever there was a magic moment, Henry thought, this is it. We're not over yet. Henry walked over to the girl, and they stood together gazing at the glittering tree. Then Henry reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the old claw hammer. Here you go, Sparky, Henry said. You'll be needing this. The end. And then it tells a little bit of a history about the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center and then about Habitat for Humanity International. So both very worthy causes. But yeah, that is The Carpenter's Gift. A wonderful, wonderful story. Yes, the art is definitely spectacular in that.